Hello, hello. Oh, let me get the sun out of my eyes. Okay, let's do it this way. I think this is gonna work. Hey, everybody. So excited for y'all to jump in, come in. I won't be before you long, but I do have some amazing things to say to y'all. My name is Kaila with an I, not a Y, Kaila Matthews. I'm based out of Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm the owner of What the Doula. What the Doula is a doula agency based out of Memphis, Tennessee, and we support birthing people standing firm in whatever their birthing choices are, whatever their postpartum choices are. I provide birth services, postpartum services, lactation support services, placenta encapsulation. I'm an herbalist, so I provide teas and tinctures for my clients. I'm a yoga instructor, so I guide my clients through their specific yogic journeys and add prenatal yoga into the various packages that I offer to help all bodies prepare to bring their babies here safely earthside. But today I'm going to wear my lactation counselor hat to talk about one of my favorite things during Black Breastfeeding Week, which is being properly positioned. So I call this the 5 P's of breastfeeding. I'm Greek. I'm a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha. And so we talk about the 5 P's in the Greek world. But I've kind of modified the 5 P's to fit the breastfeeding world. And my 5 P's is proper positioning prevents poor performance or poor production. There are a couple of things that go into being properly positioned to ensure that you successfully transfer milk to your baby and empty your breast. Successfully transferring milk to your baby and emptying your breast are 2 of the ways that you know your baby is getting enough milk, along with a couple of other things that I will mention at the end of this talk. But when I talk about being properly positioned, we talk about the baby being in a proper position, and we talk about latch, but we don't necessarily focus on the mom. So I want to start there. So when we talk about being properly positioned, or when I say being properly positioned, I'm talking about you, mom, birthing person, breastfeeding parent. You need to be properly positioned. You need to be in a comfortable seat, in some comfortable space or place where you could be fully exposed. Maybe that seat has some sort of pillow or something to support your lumbar area, to allow your spine to be erect, to allow the heart to push out, the breast to push forward. But, we get in the habit of doing this going down to a baby when we need to be bringing a baby up to us. Other things about being properly positioned: if you're sitting in a seat that's comfortable, a seat that's low enough, a seat that has enough space, you're able to use some sort of prop or birthing pillow like the breast friend or the boppy or a towel or the pillows around your couch to help support baby, to support the breast, to support your arms, to support your hands. So being properly positioned. Most women in the postpartum phase are dealing with some sort of carpal tunnel or some sort of wrist inability, especially having to grip around and go around a baby's head and ear. And so being properly positioned can ensure that you're not straining or stretching your extremities more than you had to. The other thing that being properly positioned can do for you is, again, to ensure that the maximum amount of milk transfer happens. More laid back positions allow for a certain type of milk transfer versus more leaning forward milk positions allowing for proper transfer. And those of you joining in, as y'all come in, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. I plan on just like looking down here and engaging, but I'm just going to talk to tell y'all all the things that I had prepared. And so I talked about positioning for mom. Now I want to talk about positioning for baby. So when we talk about being properly positioned for a baby, a couple of things that I'm looking for, and I teach it in a nursery rhyme to my people when I'm doing lactation visits, but I'm looking for the baby's tummy to be to mommy. So baby should be turned in facing towards you. Their ear, their shoulder, their hip, and their leg should all be in a straight line. If the baby is wearing a t-shirt or something is on the front of their onesie, you should not be able to read that from across the room or sitting across from them. So we want baby's tummy into mommy. That's in the cradle position. That's in the football position. That's in the cross cradle position. That's in the sideline position. That's in the laid back position. In all of these positions, baby's tummy can be to mommy. And then we want baby's nose opposite to nipple, nose to nip. You smell your food before you get ready to eat, and it makes you hungry. Smelling your food makes you salivate. It gives you an appetite. And so allowing the baby to smell the food activates another sense for them that allows them to show up and exhibit signs of hunger. And then you want to make sure that you are using your hand, your arm to support the body to spread the hips, which is in turn going to open the lips. A baby's mouth needs to be opened wide. They need to be gaping. You need to see 140 degrees or wider when the baby is being brought to the breast. A lot of the times we'll see that little peek of an opening and we get ready trying to shove that nipple in there. And that's how the baby ends up biting down on the nipple. You want to wait till baby opens to get that areola into the mouth so baby can clamp down and come on the breast. Also, baby is coming from a downward motion. So they should be coming up on top of that areola. Again, a lot of that bottom meat in. And so that's proper positioning for baby. Now, I'm talking about proper positioning for a newborn. Those of you that are breastfeeding toddlers, we know it is the titty Olympics. Toddlers move how they want. Toddlers do what they want. Once we've, gotten the latch right, we perfected a latch, let your baby do what your baby want to do. But when we're talking in these early days of breastfeeding, positioning for mom and positioning for baby, 100% important. And then another area where I talk about proper positioning that you don't think about that actually does impact, just like where your position or where your stance on this is like, what is your position or your stance on your breastfeeding journey, or how long your journey is going to be, and where you're going to feed, and who you're going to take input or advice from, and what you're willing to give your baby? When do you plan on weaning? All of these things, if you hadn't discussed them, figure out what your position is on them. There are several times throughout a breastfeeding journey where your supply will dip. Your supply will, ebb and flow. It is always going to meet your baby's needs, and there are things that we need to do to make sure that our supply meets our baby's needs. And so, having healthy expectations for your milk supply, having healthy habits tied to your input directly impacts your output. I see a question coming in. I'm going to read that in a second. And having an idea and healthy outlook on how long your journey will be or what the ending of your journey will look like could directly impact your journey and your experience. There are a couple of different types of weaning. You have baby-led weaning, mommy-led weaning, and society-led weaning. Ideally, we want the baby to let us know when they want to feed and when they no longer want to be at the breast. For sure, if it's no longer comfortable for you, if it doesn't fit your lifestyle, if it is not consensual for you, we want you, to not do things that don't feel good for you, because a healthy, happy, consensual mom can take care of a baby properly. But society-led weaning, when it's like that bully mentality, that can kind of cause a little bit of remorse. And so we want to make sure that we are properly positioned in our mind and in our mindsets for what our journey looks like, for whatever hiccups may come our way for our journey, and to receive that support. And so I had a question in the chat. This question says, I'm currently dealing with carpal tunnel and I'm about to be 23 weeks. What are some ways to relieve the pain since it can lead to postpartum or showing up in postpartum as well? So I actually started dealing with carpal tunnel in the later stages of pregnancy as well. I would 100% tell you to go ahead and see if you can get a referral to a physical therapist. I was able to get a brace and they showed me some different hand exercises that I can do. Also, as a prenatal yoga instructor, I show a lot of my clients how they can use objects around their house like towels and blocks and different rolls to support carpal tunnel, to do some different exercises to loosen up the extremities and the joints and muscles that may be tightening there. But I agree, it is something, if you can get a handle on now, if you can get a brace for it now, if you can understand and learn ways to work with it now, it will be beneficial so that if it does continue on into postpartum, you are able to, successfully feed your baby. I'll tell you now though, having carpal tunnel in postpartum did not stop me from breastfeeding either of my babies. Very, very welcome, and feel free to reach out to me at any point if you have some follow-up questions about that. Yeah, so I did my training through the Healthy Children's Project, and that was the way they put it to us. There are 3 different types of weaning. The baby gets to decide, you get to decide, or society gets to decide. And we are honest about the impact that society has on the decisions that we make, and the choices that we are even exposed to, the access that we have. Y'all, I had a doula with my daughter 8 years ago. It was when the information wasn't just kind of in your face the way it is now. And I'm so grateful that it is, as trendy as being a doula is, as getting a doula is, it's just as needed as it was 8 years ago when I had it as it is now. The difference is, though, there are a lot more of us, one band, one sound singing the same message. So the proof is in the pudding. Like, people are starting to believe and see what it is we're providing. And I love seeing more doulas like myself expand into the lactation world, because doulas do have some knowledge and insight into breastfeeding, and they can support you at the beginning stages. But then there are levels to lactation support. I'm working on a microblog right now just about how proud I am to be a Black breastfeeding mom. For the 10th year of Black Breastfeeding Week, I've breastfed 2 of my children. And y'all, like, that's crazy. Like, my children are going to be able to say, like, I was breastfed. And that makes them that much more likely to breastfeed their children. And that's not something I could say for myself. But I'm creating something that I want to see for the generations that come from, my womb, from my tree of life. And I think that that's the position that we're in now as a society, to be able to make these informed decisions, to say, what was done for me was good. It was okay. And if I know better, if I can do better, I'll do better. And so, we have Instagram lives like what National Black Doulas is doing all this week with myself and all the other lactation support people that will come on and talk to you about the areas that are important to them. You have local support groups. You have breastfeeding friends and family. Be caution there. Proceed with caution there, because sometimes people transfer trauma that they don't mean to. But what I'm really, really loving about, celebrating this Black Breastfeeding Week is just seeing so many more women of color in the lactation support world and profession. We got Black CLCs, we got Black LCs, we got Black LSs, we got Black IBCLCs. Like, we out here helping this chocolate milk get to these babies. And it makes me smile. It makes me smile. And so if y'all have any questions about anything that I've talked about, please drop them in the chat. A couple of more things. Hey, Tracie, thank you. It's literally one of my goals to always make you proud and to be a dope representation of the NBDA, and just for women of color doing this thing in general. Y'all, breastfeeding is not for the faint. It is a commitment, and I tell people all the time, I've never met a family, a person that wants to breastfeed that has access to me that ain't been able to, because I'm going to move hell and high water to get some milk out of your titties. Like, I'll show you how to get some milk out of your titties. And I call them titties because that's what they are to me. I understood from my first journey to my second journey the things that I could tweak and I could do to make it more impactful for me. I think about that first journey. I was 22. I was young. I didn't invest in the tools that I needed to make the breastfeeding journey successful, like something to sit in, an ottoman, something that allowed me to put my feet up, something that had pockets where I could stuff some snacks, getting a cart to be able to make things easily accessible. The haka, y'all, the haka is your best friend. When you get in a proper position and you got that extra silicone cup or that silicone cup on the side, the extra support to help you start to catch that letdown milk. That's the way you can start to get ahead of supply and any supply issues you may think you need, or having milk readily accessible for someone else to be able to get to baby. And I'm not saying that, you will always be able to get in a proper position to feed baby. And I'm telling you, more often as you can be in a proper position, the better off you can. I got another question coming in. What's my stance on herbs to increase your supply? So I'm an herbalist. I am 100% pro, use what God gave us in the way that God intended for us to use it to help our bodies be well. And you can drink all the herbs. You can eat all the, foods that are galactago centered. And if your mindset isn't that you are enough, you have the ability, you can produce, you can be of substance and enough for your baby, there will still be a sort of block. So milk is made from a couple of things. It's about what you input, and it's about your hormones. It's about these hormones are triggered by, our energy and what's blocking and what's not. And so if you are really stressed and really worried and really concerned, you aren't in a space or place to allow prolactin and oxytocin to come in the plentiful way that they need to come in to maximize your supply. Yes, you will make milk, and it may not look like the volume that you could get if you were in your most relaxed state, like something as simple as, like I said, like being in a proper seat. And then you add the level of you being, nourished and well. And then you add the layer of the baby being properly positioned. Now you are maximizing your opportunity for optimal output. But when one of those three, two of those three, or three of those three is not where we need to be, drink all the herbs you want. Nothing's going to consistently happen. But I am pro, if you know which herbs to consume, go for it. Definitely always consult a lactation counselor, an herbalist, your pediatrician, and do some research and read for yourself. Something that I try to do a good job of is helping my clients understand why we aren't taking certain things or steering clear of certain things. I'm seeing some other questions coming through. How can I find a doula in my area? So one of the easiest ways to find a doula in your area is through the National Black Doulas. We have a platform. You can go to blackdoulas.org, and you can look under our national directory. You can see if there is a doula in your state or in your region. If you can't find one there, shoot us an email. Maybe there just isn't someone registered yet. There are a couple of other mediums you can go through. Sister Midwife is a place that has some doulas listed. Doula Match is a place that has some doulas listed. Searching various Facebook groups to find doulas looking to support clients, things like that. Blank City Doula Connection or things like that can help you find a doula in your area. If you want to connect with me via DM, I'm What the Doula, or via email, I could definitely try to help you find a doula in your area. I hope that answered your question. The other question is, comment, can't wait to take your class. Yes, please take a breastfeeding class. Y'all, I tell every doula, even if you're not going to certify in lactation training, audit, take a workshop, moonlight, viewing into someone's lactation training, continue to watch a bunch of lives like this. You will hear the same tips over and over and over. It's not a secret sauce to this, because a great lactation counselor wants everybody to have the keys. I want every person that can hear me, that can access me, that can reach me, to know that one of the major keys, one of the foundational things that you can do to ensure that your baby is getting enough is being properly positioned. If you are in the proper position in your mind and in your body, okay, that is going to prevent poor performance. That's going to prevent poor production. If your mindset is on producing what people on social media are producing versus meeting your baby's needs, you are not in the proper position. If your mind is on getting this milk out quickly so you can get away from your baby, you are not in the proper position. Okay, like we make milk to give to our babies, and it's easily done when we're not stressed, when we're not rushing, when the time is able to be made for it. And I was a working mom. I'm still a working mom, but when I was breastfeeding, I was a working mom, full-time working mom. And I had to be intentional and be proactive and plan my breastfeeding breaks, pumping breaks. You want to do them around, as close to your child's feeding times as possible. And sometimes we got to do what we got to do. There were definitely sometimes, I was a teacher too, y'all, so that's a high stress job. There were definitely some times that I would be pumping in between classes, and that was very high stress. Ideally, though, we don't want to be doing that. Let's see, another question. Any beginner books recommended? One of my favorite books to recommend to beginning breastfeeders, and it's actually the book I use as a lactation counselor, is the Pocket Guide to Lactation Management. Between that and What to Expect When You're Expecting, those are two really good books that give a lot of information on breastfeeding. There are a lot of downloadable or purchase, like you can purchase breastfeeding manuals that are specific to breastfeeding. I have some private links to some if you want to connect with me, Kristen, in DM. Breastfeed all my babies because I see my mom too. No, for real, Tracie, like that has an impact on it. And I said this earlier in the live, like, y'all, like that, if I couldn't do anything else for my family tree, like to say, like, they could say they came from breastfeeding. And if God bless me with a third and I can get, me an out of hospital birth, we gonna say we got home birth in this, in this family tree too. 100% on the haka and the cart. Yo, no, for real, getting gadgets and gadgets to help you be properly positioned, y'all. They are where you need to be. Is it possible? I'm trying to read through these questions. Is it possible to pre-pump ahead of time instead of every 2 hours so that I have a supply a few hours instead of every 2 hours? So this is my stance and my position on that. So again, we want to be properly positioned in our mind. Why are we pre-pumping? Are we trying to get ahead of supply because we need to be away from our baby? Do we need to be away from our baby because it's medically necessary, because it's financially necessary? Are we just in fear about not meeting our baby's needs? That's my first question. If it's medically necessary to be away from baby, if it's financially necessary to be away from baby, and you need to pump in advance to get ahead of supply, work with the lactation counselor to figure out the ideal time to insert in those extra pumps, because you don't want to get into the oversupply territory. You want to keep a healthy balance for your supply, for your comfort and your baby's ability. Overfed babies are whiny, they're inconsolable, they're gassy, their stomachs are full, and it's painful for you. I remember I was trying to express milk out of my breast every 30 minutes when I was pumping too early and, kind of got into an oversupply. But if you're wanting to have a supply for every few hours instead of every 2 hours, I really recommend the haka. Like using the haka on one side or hand expressing on one side while the baby is eating on the other side. And I say haka just because it's straight suction. That stimulation alone can really help you start to see the value in their runoff milk. And then birth baby, switch baby to the side you were just hocking and put the hocker on this side. You'd be surprised. You're going to get a couple of more ounces. And if that doesn't make sense, again, please feel free to check in with me in DM. I can talk to you a lot more about this. I see more people joining, and I'm probably just going to talk for like 2 or 3 more minutes if I don't see more questions coming in. I'll be sure to save this so y'all can catch this recap. I got some comments. Thank you. I've seen so much on the opposite. As an herbalist, it's made me think hard. No, for real. There's a lot out there on the internet, y'all, that can skew you a way that isn't intended for your journey. And so you have to proceed with caution. You have to take what is applicable to you, chew it, and then spit out the rest. There may be some things that I have said today on this live that might not be applicable for you, for your journey, for how you're going to support clients. And the facts out of this is proper positioning prevents poor production. When you have a baby properly latched and properly positioned, you increase your chances of expressing milk and transferring milk, of emptying the breast. When we teach babies to breastfeed improperly, when we get in the habit of latching babies improperly, of being positioned improperly, y'all, the number of people I support feeding like this, like literally like this, bent down, the baby's like back hunched over, titty trying to stretch down to the baby. It's uncomfortable. Or even, the way you pick up your breast, you about to see me pick up my breast. I pick up the whole titty from under the meat. My hand is my areola is all the way up here. My hand is nowhere near my areola because my baby needs to latch on to that. And just knowing things again about being properly positioned is going to impact how you get the breast to your baby and how your baby gets to show up during a feeding. I have really enjoyed engaging with y'all. Thank you. Great motto on proper position. It's not just physical. It is a mental thing, y'all. Your mindset, having a growth mindset truly impacts how you show up to everything in life. Can you tell me my Instagram info? I am What the Doula. Please follow me, connect with me. I'm trying to put it in the chat down here. I'm What the Doula on Instagram. Oh, thank y'all. They put it down there. See, that's why I love my folk. Any suggestions for moms who don't fit breast pump flanges? Y'all, folk that don't fit breast pump flanges are my favorite people, because I'm going to tell you to stick to the hocker or some type of silicone, because it's normally wider than most of those flanges, or use your 2 best friends. Second breastfeeding journey, you couldn't get me to use nothing but these things. I knew exactly how to grip and how to go. And it was just like that. Like, I could hold this thing, I could squeeze and get milk out. Learning your breast and the layout of your breast. Hand expression really could be your best friend. It's also, the closest thing you have to like heat and hormones and the next best thing to your baby. Like, this is physical touch. So, hand expression would be my go-to, or the haka. Hand expression and the haka. These were some good questions and comments. Again, I don't want to talk y'all's ear off. If you hit the plus sign, you can ask a question. Oh, and I'll see it faster. She is right. Can I share these resources on the IG stories later? Yes, I will. I'll figure out how to do that, because I want to respect NBDA and the access that they gave me to this. So I will figure out how to share these resources. I'll make some sort of cool infographic or something. But just to recap, because I'm about to get off, we want to be properly positioned for mommy when we are breastfeeding. We want to make sure we're in a comfortable medium, we're in a comfortable position, and that we have access to different positions to switch how our baby is showing up at the breast. We want the baby properly positioned. We want the baby's tummy turned into you. We want the baby's nose opposite the nipple so they can smell their food. And then we want to use an arm or a hand to be able to support spreading the baby's hips so they can open the lips to put as much of the areola into the baby's mouth. And then lastly, we want to be properly positioned in our minds, y'all. We want to make sure we got healthy expectations, we got healthy outlooks, and we have a support system when we need to calibrate any of those things. Again, breastfeeding is not for the faint, and it does not have to be lonely. There's a network out there. Use me, use other people, but don't do it alone and don't suffer in silence. I'm so excited to be a part of the Black breastfeeding community, a part of the Black breastfeeding support network for Black people breastfeeding. Black women do breastfeed. Black women do breastfeed. Our babies deserve our chocolate milk, and I can't wait to support so many more of you helping figure out how we do this for generations to come. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for engaging. Thank y'all for asking questions. Again, holler at me on my personal social media, What the Doula, all together, What the Doula. And I hope I get to do this again because I really like to talk to folk, man. Get a doula, man. All right, I'm going, y'all.